directed to both, or to all. Let's see. Why can't I find this? There it is. Maybe. I hope.
Questions to you?
There's. Oh, let's see. Now Delia is walking around.
So that's unnerving because if they zoom in on your face and suddenly your face is.
In LA City, definitely. And you can get the order of business. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. I think he's ready to start. Yes, we are. Good evening. Good evening, people. I'd like to welcome all of you this evening to the candidate forum for the Whittier Union High School District Area 4, which is East Whittier and a little of La Habra Heights and maybe down into the the border with La Mirada. And the two candidates who are vying for this seat are both here. We're pleased to have them. I am Margot Rieg. I am the president of the LA County League of Women Voters and the acting president of the Whittier League of Women Voters. Good. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization whose purpose is to encourage people to take an active role in their government from the very local level up through county, state, and federal by becoming informed and becoming involved. We have two arms. One arm is a 501c4, which does study and advocacy. So we do analyze bills, we do analyze ballot measures, we do take positions and lobby to have bills passed based on the public policy conclusions that we have reached through a 2-year study of a particular issue. And we have policy issues at the state and local level in 3 broad categories. Government, which covers a wide range of things from campaign finance to redistricting to voting rights to budgeting. And another broad category is social policy, which covers education and libraries and welfare and foster care and criminal justice programs and that type of thing. And the third category is natural resources, which covers water, air, land use, trash, hazardous waste, and that type of thing. Tonight, I am here as the voter service arm of the League of Women Voters, which is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit. It means that we, as in voter service activities, do not do any lobbying or even explaining where the League stands on things. Among the things we do under voter service are put on candidate forums like this so that voters can learn more about the candidates who are running to represent them at various levels, from school board and water board and library board all the way up to Assembly and Senate and Congress. And we put on pro and con discussions of the ballot measures, where we tell you what the measure will do, what a yes vote means, what a no vote means, and who's supporting it, who's opposing it, and where the major money is coming from. And we let you decide, based on that information, how to vote on each of those ballot measures. So tonight, we have candidates for our local Whittier area high school board, Whittier Union High School District. And I will explain to you that the reason we do not have Area 5 here is because Area 5 is entirely outside the city of Whittier. And therefore, using City Hall and using Whittier cable would not reach the people who are voting in that particular race. So the candidates we have this evening are running for Area 4, which is the eastern end of Whittier, and I would like to introduce them. First, we have Irma Rodriguez Moisa, and second, we have Chris Hardiman. They will be starting with 2-minute opening statements to explain why they're running and what they think the major issues are in the district that they would like to address. We have a couple of ushers, and I may even tap Vanessa to usher if necessary. There are cards and pencils up here on this podium, and if you need a card or a pencil, raise your hand. If you've written a question and you would like to turn it in, raise your hand again, and we'll come get it. You need to remember that the questions and the responses must pertain to high school district policies, high school district governance, high school district curriculum, but not with personalities. And audience, our two candidates have agreed that they will abide by the rules that we sent them. The rules are printed in the program, and that we hope that the audience will be respectful of all the candidates, and that as we move through, we can get to more questions if we do not applaud after each statement. We can give a nice applause at the end to both candidates for their participation and their efforts to represent you. Okay. So we will begin this evening with opening statements, and I arbitrarily did not draw for order of speaking tonight because the order is going to go A, B, B, A, B, B, A all night. You know, when we have 5 people, you can kind of scramble them, but not with 2.
Who's A? Who's B?
Well, we'll have ladies be first tonight, and then on closing statements, gentlemen will be first. So, for our opening statements, we will first hear from Irma Rodriguez Moisa.
How many minutes do they have? 2. Good evening. My name is Irma Rodriguez Moisa, and I am running for Whittier Union High School District Area 4 Trustee. My husband Alex and I have lived in Whittier for almost 30 years. We raised our 3 children here, and we've worked to ensure that Whittier is the best place to raise all of our families. We've been active supporters of many of our local community organizations, whether as board members, volunteers, providing pro bono work, participating in events. We're supporters of The Whole Child, Spirit Family Services, Whittier First Day, the Boys and Girls Club of Whittier, the YMCA, LA CATA. I am a former member of the Seroptimus International of Whittier, and I am a previous trustee of the Rio Hondo College Foundation. As a mom, I have also actively supported my children in their educational program and been part of the village that has supported many of our children in our community. Our kids were involved in numerous programs at Ocean View Elementary, East Whittier Middle School, Lucerna High School, and Whittier High School. I am proud to have raised 3 grounded individuals who will contribute to the betterment of our society. I am a believer in public education. I am the first in my family to pursue college, and I know firsthand how transformational the high school experience can be for many of our students. I earned a bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley, a master's in public policy from Harvard University, and my law degree at UC Berkeley. As an attorney, I have received statewide recognition for my legal work. And I sit before all of you here today, and those of you who are listening on TV land, to tell you that I am running so that I can pay it forward in recognition of the benefits that I have received from public education, to ensure that all of our children have the same opportunities I had and that my children had. If elected, I will bring a fresh perspective to the many challenges facing the district today and in the years to come. I will make decisions in the best interests of our children.
Thank you. Now we will hear an opening statement from Chris Hardiman.
Hi, good evening and thank you. My name is Chris Hardiman. I'm a candidate for Whittier Union High School District number 4, trustee. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. Over the last 26 years, I've led 3 wonderful Whittier organizations as a board member and board chair. The YMCA of Greater Whittier, the Whittier Area Chamber of Commerce, and the Whittier Community Foundation. And I led each of these organizations through transitions of growth. I do understand board policy and how to make a board function. The Whittier Union High School District has 11,000 plus students, and every decision this trustees make affects those lives. And we're coming out of a pandemic where the word closed was everywhere, and now we are seeing new needs, new issues, new opportunities. I'm running in a priority of openness. I stand for parents that they have access to open communication with schools and teachers. Students do better when teachers and families connect. I support open curriculum transparency, allowing families to be sure that their child is learning and it falls within the family values. I support open marketing and recruitment of students, which must be performed by the district as the decline in student enrollment is here. But we have to save teachers' jobs and campuses. I support open athletic fields to be built at Sierra Educational Center. And I support robust virtual learning when COVID is present. My number one priority is enhanced safety at every high school campus, preventing violence and drugs. We have access to technologies that can better protect everyone. We've seen the horrors of school shootings over the years. We must never let that happen here in Whittier. Whittier Union High School District is an amazing school with one of the best high schools in Southern California. We will continue to build upon past successes of this incredible district where we can achieve and maintain excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this first question addresses homeschooling and support for virtual learning. What technical or IT support should or can the school district provide to students at their homes to support their schoolwork? And we will begin for this question with Mr. Hardiman, and the candidates have 1 minute to answer each question.
In my perfect world, children that are affected by COVID and thus not at school should have the opportunity to virtually tap into classrooms. I know that is not a popular decision, and it has not happened often. Whittier City School District is doing a virtual learning for people who did not choose to send their children back to school, but I would support virtual at least look-in for students who are stuck at home with COVID and don't have access to it. I personally know people whose grades declined at certain schools because they were exposed to COVID and not allowed to come back to school for a period of time, and I don't want to see that happen to children. So I am very supportive of virtual access into classrooms. And as you mentioned, homeschooling, to me, that's a completely different thing, and they follow a different kind of curriculum and wouldn't need virtual
Yeah,
tap-in.
that was a misspeak. Actually,
Okay.
I meant
All right.
learning at home.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Moisa.
Yeah. During the pandemic, one of the things that we learned is that we actually could teach remotely and virtually. Now, for many children, that wasn't as effective as in-person teaching. For other students, it was. If a family decides that they want to have their child learn remotely, I do support that the families will have that opportunity to make that choice for themselves. If they do so, I do believe the district should make sure that the child is provided with adequate internet service and is provided with a laptop so that they are able to actually adequately access the classroom. I think that's the question was respect to what resources, and I would support that level so that those kids can have the best access and equal access to the program. And I think they also have cameras at some of the schools as well.
Thank you. Okay, this person asks, how would you respond to state mandates regarding introducing transgender issues into the school curriculum? And we'll begin with Ms. Moisa.
Yeah. We live in a society of laws and the rule of law. And that means that we as a school district and we as members of our society have to follow the laws that are passed by our federal government and by our state legislature. And there may be laws that are passed that we personally don't agree with. But as a society of law, we must follow that. If the state of California mandates that we must teach transgender issues, I would support it. I also would support it as a general principle of understanding. I think that there is great fear from folks that transgender students or individuals who are going through this challenge of gender identity are somehow a threat to their fellow students or to the community. I do not subscribe to that. I think we need to provide as much support as possible to all of our students so our students can succeed. If it turns out that it's a history that is needed is to be taught, I believe history should encompass all perspectives. I'm not quite sure if the question is asking, am I teaching people to be transgender? That certainly is not where I would come at it from.
Thank you. Mr. Hardiman.
If the state mandated transgender issues be taught, and it's not clear to what level, as Ms. Moisa pointed out, that is it history or what is it? I think we need to focus on academics at school. I believe we need to focus on math, science, history. I believe that if you were mandated by the state to introduce transgender issues, you would see a backlash and you would see a lot of parents pulling their children out of school. I think political issues are creeping into our schools that don't belong there. We're hitting these children at a time of great transition, going through their puberty stages. They need to be cared for and given the proper education and not political agendas.
Thank you. Okay. We have several questions addressing the topic of critical race theory. If elected, would you work to identify critical race theory in the school curriculum? And if you identify it, would you inform parents about it before the beginning of the school year? And what would your methods be? We will begin with Mr. Hardiman.
One of my platform points is curriculum transparency. I want parents to be able to see every bit of curriculum. During COVID, there was a lot of questions that came out. Well, what are my students learning? If the schools have nothing to hide, which I do not believe the Whittier Union High School District has anything to hide, they have a robust curriculum transparency right now. I would, to answer the second part of that, part of my platform is to have open communication with families and let them know the good and the questionable things happening in the school district. I want them to be 100% informed. That is so we can build a trust back between the parents and the schools.
Thank you. Ms. Moisa?
I think that this question raises the question of what is critical race theory and what is it that people perceive it to be, okay? And so I think one of the first questions that has to be answered is, what is it? And why should we or why shouldn't we teach it at the high school curriculum? Some people believe that critical race theory teaches that white people are racist. That's not what it teaches. However, at the Whittier Union High School District, we have not adopted critical race theory as a curriculum. And in fact, what we have adopted is ethnic studies, which will be mandated by the state for all graduating classes beginning in 2030. I support the ethnic studies program, and I think that that would serve as a model for how we would handle any potential curriculum change that would occur. What the district did when they passed the ethnic studies requirement was they brought together a group of teachers, 2 teachers from all of the high schools, to develop the curriculum, primarily English and history teachers. It was vetted and presented to the school board, and they had 2 different readings. And so that's what I would support, is that absolutely that has to be transparent.
Thank you. This question says, a few years ago, Lucerna High School revamped its football field track area, as well as baseball and a very few other things, at a cost of over $8 million. The field looks almost the same. Do you think this was the best use of funds? And, we might go into the budgeting process and so forth, if you have some knowledge of that. And we will begin with Ms. Moisa.
Sure. In 2020, Whittier Union High School District voters passed a bond measure to ensure that we would be able to invest in the facilities that we were providing to our students. We received authority for $183 million in expenditures. Those monies go to ensure we're up to date on the technological issues, that we've got good roofs, that we've got air conditioning, and that we are upgrading certain facilities. Whittier's baseball field, Lucerna's baseball field, Santa Fe Springs fields, et cetera. The new stadium at $8 million, if some may feel that it looks the same, but having the district is tied with respect to how it spends its money and the proposals. We have a committee that oversees the construction, and I would support, and as I understand the process, I support the process that was used to select and implement that project.
Thank you. Mr. Hardeman.
I believe greatly in athletic fields for these schools, and the district has budgeted monies, as Ms. Moisa pointed out, that we can use to enhance, in this case, fields. If you look at Cal High and Pioneer, they have beautiful new stadiums. And Whittier High School has received some upgrades to its facilities. Lucerna is trapped in an area that can't expand like those other schools could, and I think they're doing the best they can. They also desperately need to replace that swimming pool and the locker rooms at Lucerna because it's amazing that the CIF champions can come out of that school in a non-regulation size pool and for water polo. So I know they go to Cal High to do that. But yes, I believe the money is spent according to a plan, and that plan is well vetted before construction starts.
Okay, thank you. This question has to do with term limits. The retiring school board members had served for over 20 years. And this school district, our elementary districts, our high school districts, and our city council do not have term limits. What is your attitude about term limits for offices within the community? And we will begin with Mr. Hardeman and go to Ms. Moisa.
Can I clarify that question? So we're supposed to respond to the Whittier Union High School
Right.
questions.
Is there?
And I know you mentioned other entities in the cities. Who
Is
don't
there or should there be term limits within Whittier Union High School District?
That's a good question. If I'm not elected, then yes, but if I am, no. No, term limits are tricky. We have two retiring board members who have done incredible things for the district, and it takes time to do those. A term limit is ambiguous in this regard. Is it 8 years? Is it 12 years? What is the term limit? Some term limits make sense. I'm glad we have term limits up in Sacramento. I think we need that. I think we need fresh blood coming through, and incumbents have a distinct advantage in any given election. I would favor term limits if the term limits gave the sitting electeds enough time to make a good impact within the school.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Moisa.
I'll keep this answer short and sweet, and the answer is yes. I do believe in term limits at all levels of elected office, not just in Sacramento or not just with our President of the United States. I believe it's important that we do have new leadership that comes in and pushes and prods and pushes us to improve ourselves as a society. The question is how long? Based on my experience and what I've seen, I think for local office, 12 years is a good amount of time for term limits. That's 3 4-year terms. The first term is basically based on getting to learn how does the process work, trying to develop your plan, what's your vision. And then you've got a full 8 years at that point to implement what your vision is. If you can't develop enough collaboration with your fellow board members to implement whatever vision you have in those 8 years, then it is time for someone else to come on and perhaps help us move forward with implementing that vision.
Thank you. Okay, this is another question about governance and representation. What do you think about the fact that the Whittier Union High School District Board has not had a woman on the board for 25 years? And we'll begin with Ms. Moisa.
Well, I'm hoping to put an end to that streak, to be quite candid. I think that the board, I help run my law firm that I work at, and I'll tell you that one of the things that's an important value to us is that we as lawyers in our own leadership, and obviously as we represent our clients throughout the state, that we do reflect the demographics of our state and our clientele. So to me, it is important that we have diversity on the board. And obviously, diversity is not necessarily limited to only gender. It encompasses many different types of diversity. But I do think it's important to have a woman on the board, and I think that I am the candidate to fill that seat.
Thank you. Mr. Hardiman.
I believe a woman should also be on the board. I think the statement is incorrect. I think Kathy Warner was on the board in the last 25 years at the Whittier Union High School District, but I'm not sure when she left that board, if it was more than 25 years ago.
Or 18.
Anyway, I believe Whittier City School District should have a male on the board in the same regard. I believe that it should be split up. So when I am elected, I will work hard to make sure a woman is appointed 2 years from now.
I'm sorry, a woman is appointed.
Or elected.
Thank you. Okay, what is your attitude? What is your attitude or direction about the Whittier Union High School District providing more practical, technical career programs in its magnets than may be available at this point? And we will begin with Mr. Hardiman. Careers that would not require going to college.
Yeah. I am all for technical and trade education at the high school level. We actually do a tremendous job at that right now, and there are other trades coming up that could be taught in school, primarily technology trades, that perhaps students could take classes for technology and not maybe attend college, but go right into the trades. I know a lot of very wealthy plumbers and electricians. So there's a big value to trade schools, and not every student needs to go to college to have a successful life.
Thank you. Ms. Moisa?
Yeah. I think the role for us as parents and the role for us as board members is to ensure that we provide an educational program that gives our children an opportunity to succeed and to be able to make a choice about what it is they want to do with their life and their careers. That does mean that you do provide options. So clearly, we have to have academic excellence for those kids who want to and believe they want to go to college. We should be providing pathways for practical trades and skill sets in that regard. We need to strengthen some of our other programs that we have at some of the other high schools so that people know there are particular pathways and focus. I was at the board meeting on Tuesday, and Cal High presented on its 5 academies, and they're doing a phenomenal job there. So I would support that. I think it's important. But more importantly, what we're about is providing that opportunity so that our children can make the choice for themselves about what it is they want to do and be able to provide them those tools.
Thank you. Would you support Unfortunately, there's one word here I can't read. I guess, would you continue to support the use of the Whittier High Auditorium for the Whittier Regional Symphony for them to provide free concerts to the entire community?
Is it my turn?
I think so.
Yes.
It says at reasonable, and I can't read the word.
I'll try to insert maybe perhaps with the question, or try to get the spirit of the question. I'm a true believer that we have to provide extracurricular activities and opportunities for our children to participate in art and music. The Rio Hondo Symphony is an organization my husband and I have supported. We've attended their events, and they don't have a place where they can actually play, and that makes it available to the public at large. I would support that they would have access to it at the auditorium at Whittier High School, and that it would be done at cost, so that if there is a cost, that's what they would be charged. I think it's important that as we have our children exposed to so many different things, that they have that, and we're lucky to have that resource, that they absolutely get exposed to it. And there are some phenomenal musicians who participate in that symphony.
Thank you.
I support the use of the Vic Lopez Auditorium at cost to cover. It's the biggest auditorium in our city. It seats 2,000 people, and there are elementary schools who need it to fill all the parents who want to come see a performance. The Rio Hondo Symphony is wonderful. I've attended their shows many times, actually not in the last 3 years, right? But before, and that auditorium works for that, and it's a community gem, and it should be open to the community to use as long as the school has the space and the time on their calendar.
Thank you. What things should the school district do to address the needs of students who have lost academic level as a result of the COVID virtual education? What kinds of things can the district do to bring these people back up to grade level or above standard? And we'll begin with Mr. Hardiman.
The Whittier Union High School District and all school districts need to do something and do it now. Students are falling behind because of what happened in the virtual learning. We need to identify those students. The problem is those students who fell behind are going to have to work twice as hard because they're catching up. And as they're learning what they didn't learn, they are missing what they should be learning. So it's a very tricky thing. I would be in favor of virtual after-school learning At home, I would be in favor of after-school catch-up time. I'm running on this, that we provide students catch-up time at every campus so they can learn what they didn't learn while they were sitting at home on their computers.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Moisa.
Yeah. The studies are showing that all of our students are behind as a result of the pandemic, but that those students who really struggled were those who were going from a transition period, whether it was from middle school to high school, kindergarten to first grade. And so now is a time for us, for our current ninth graders and our 10th graders, to provide additional resources to them. Now, many of those kids learn differently. Some of them may learn better remotely. But I would support and believe that we should provide additional teaching resources at the school. I think that we should incentivize our teachers, our educators, to offer additional educational programs at the school, compensate them for that additional work, because that is on top of what is their current workload. I also believe that we need to ensure that for many of these students who have fallen behind, there are other issues than just the academics. They've got some social, emotional issues going on, there's depression and anxiety, and I would want to make sure that we also provide those kind of services to the students.
Thank you. And that brings up another subject. What would be your attitude or policy toward increasing or decreasing the number of counselors, librarians, and other support staff at the high school district? And we'll begin with Ms. Moisa.
Sure. We know that the majority of the resources do go in terms of to our teachers because they're in the classroom day in and day out. That is the reality of it. However, I am a firm believer that we have to provide these other services. They're critical. I can tell you, having put my 3 children through the high schools, that the area that I felt the district failed the most was in the area of college and career counseling. Mm-hmm. They've got one counselor for 400 kids, 500 kids. We have to have more in that regard. Now, with respect to librarians, I love librarians. I love going to libraries. I read a lot. I just don't know how many of our kids are now actually going to a library and learning through the traditional modes of the library. I would certainly like to encourage that. But librarians serve a different role as well at the schools, teaching our kids how to learn, how to find books, et cetera. But they obviously are important, and I absolutely would support additional support services in the non-academic areas.
Thank you. Mr. Hardiman.
I support the increase of counselors at every campus based on the needs at those particular campuses, and we need to understand what those needs are at every single campus. Not every family is equipped to deal with the emotional status of their children, and often, as you know, teenagers, if you've had one, they hide it from their parents, and maybe the teachers are better ready to identify those needs. If they are identified, I want the parents to be notified, and I want that to be a cooperative between the parents and the teachers and the school counselor so they can better support that child robustly throughout the recovery process, we will call it. We have all sorts of mental and emotional issues as a result of the COVID lockdowns. Minimum was losing contact with friends and conversation. It was very impactful to my own children, and we're working on rebuilding that right now. Librarians, I love them. Let's make sure every library is brought up to the 21st century and support that with librarians.
Thank you. Okay. This person asks about public safety in our schools. What policies would you support to keep our students in the schools safe and secure? And we will begin with Mr. Hardiman.
That one. Okay. Safety is my number one priority in the schools. I will say we currently have fences around every single high school campus. We have safety officers on every campus, but we can do more and we can do better. As a result of school shootings, Technologies have come out. Did you know there are bulletproof curtains that can be drawn over windows? Did you know there are automatic locking doors that can be all shut at once in an entire school? Did you know there are fog machines that can be installed in the ceilings to obscure the view of any shooter coming on campus if that was the case? We also, when we talk about safety, there are drug issues on these campuses. I know this for a fact. I've been told by high school students that they have easy access to drugs. We need to do better at keeping the drugs off campus, and we need to do better identifying the drugs on campus because we want our children to be safe. That is number one. I never want any Whittier school to go through a shooting like we've seen elsewhere.
Thank you. Ms. Moisa.
Yes, absolutely. I support providing our safest schools possible. If you go to any of the high schools now, what you'll see is there's one point of ingress and one point of egress. And there is typically a school resource officer who is there checking IDs to make sure you have an appointment, et cetera. They do not let people in on campus who do not have business on campus. There are fences around the campus, and so I think the school district currently has done a good job of providing a safe, physically safe space for our students. The issue with respect to drug use is a whole nother issue that we'll probably have to address in another question. I certainly support if there are other means that are safe, that cannot be used against our students or our faculty members or our staff to enhance and increase that security. I would certainly support it, and I would research that. Thank you.
Thank you. College professors across the country have noticed a decline in the quality of writing and essay skills among incoming first-year students since COVID. What should Whittier Union High School District do to improve and strengthen the skills that the students have before they head for college? And we'll begin with Ms. Moisa.
Yeah. Writing is one of the most critical skills that our students need to have in order to be successful in whatever career path they have, whether it's writing a memo, a letter, a legal brief, a customer order. And absolutely, we have to invest in those resources to do that. The only way to improve writing is to keep writing. Write, write, write. And we have to have teachers who are available to our students who are able to provide that additional resource to review papers, to give them feedback, et cetera. So what I would support is that if we are finding that is the case, that our English teachers develop a curriculum to provide some enhanced learning for those students who are struggling or those students who wish to learn that more. I did the same as I was going through college and graduate school. I took additional writing classes and just wrote and wrote. English is my second language, and so I felt that I needed that additional work myself. So I would support that kind of an effort, because when a person gets an A in that AP English or an A in the English class they've taken, it needs to reflect that you've met a certain standard, and if it doesn't, we need to work on that.
Thank you. Mr. Hardiman.
I'm not surprised by the decline of writing skills. I think writing goes hand in hand with reading. I think before COVID, we were losing the ability as students to learn to write because we were spending more time on social media. We were playing video games when we should have been reading, and writing has declined greatly for years. Writing can come back. Writing is essential for success in life, and we can do better at what we're doing locally, and as a nation, we need to do better to make sure our kids are knowing how to write a proper sentence, a proper paragraph, a proper book, a proper essay, or whatever. We need to know how to write, and they don't know it, and we need to figure out a way to teach them now.
Thank you. Talking about reading. This person asks, what books do you like to read in your spare time? And we'll begin with Mr. Hardiman.
All right, I'll tell you the truth. I'm currently rereading Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire because it's a new TV show, and I read it once, and it's an eloquently written book. And so that is one of the books I'm reading, well, the only book. I only read one book at a time. I do read the Bible every day also, so there's reading there. Did that answer your question? What was repeat the question for me, please?
I guess rather than
What are you reading?
what types of books do you read?
I read
what do you
mostly
enjoy
nonfiction
reading?
or business books.
Yeah.
How I own a business, and I'm always trying to increase its profitability and revenue and growth. Oh, I still have 15 seconds. Thanks, Delia. I read Harry Potter all the time because I read to my kids every night. So, so we read all sorts of things from Dr. Seuss to Harry Potter to.
Great.
I forgot about the kids.
Okay, Ms. Moisa.
Reading changed my life. I learned to read in first grade and picked up books and have never stopped since. Reading is essential to thinking and living and dreaming. So I read pretty much everything. One of my favorites, I do like to escape to a great mystery novel, so I'll do a lot of mystery novels that I'll read, a variety of different authors. I love biographies. The one that I just finished is called Hello, Molly. It's by Molly Shannon, who is a comedian on Saturday Night Live, so I'll go from there to reading the biography on a U.S. president. I'm also reading, I just finished that one, and I'm almost done with a book by Bill Browder called Freezing Order, so that's more of a current events history of what's going on with Russia and Putin and his how he has garnered his wealth. But I pretty much read everything, newspapers every day, etc.
Thank you. This is harking back to our pandemic. How do you feel about wearing masks in school? Is this something that would be appropriate to maintain a positive and healthy environment in the schools, or should it be abandoned? And we'll begin with Ms. Moisa.
Yeah. The Whittier Union High School District has to abide by whatever the national, state, and local orders are. We're governed by the CDC, the State California Department of Public Health, the LA County Department of Public Health. So they will ultimately provide for us the guidelines that we have to follow, whether we like it or not. With respect to masking, I can share with you that I attended my goddaughter's performance last spring at Whittier High School, and all the kids were masked as they were singing and dancing across the Vic Lopez Auditorium. And I did feel horrible, like, oh, I would want to see their faces. I want to hear them singing. But it was necessary for purposes of our public health. So I would support masking if that is what is mandated, if our public health officials determine, based on their analysis, that that is in the interest of public health, I would support it. If we have a choice and it's not mandated, I would defer to the individual to decide if they are going to wear a mask. And obviously, they've got a mask if they've been exposed, and in a way to ensure that the rest of the people they're exposed to are not exposed to illness.
Thank you. Mr. Hardiman.
We follow public safety health orders. I am not in favor of mandated mask mandates. We are at a stage of this pandemic where maybe it's endemic, and we are learning to live with this disease. Masks have done a lot of psychological damage on our children. We are learning that now. We may not have understood that before, but there are children who wear that mask every day, and it may be because they feel more secure behind the mask than they do without it. Children are very self-conscious of how they look. Not to mention, N95s are the best mask to protect you from the virus. But N95 masks should never be worn for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. That deprives oxygen to the brain. Even medical professionals don't wear them that long.
Thank you. We have had a variety of questions brought up by the audience, and I would like to thank you for patiently answering a lot of questions, because sometimes when we have 6 or 8 people up here, they get about 4 each. So you have had many more than that. We will move to our closing statements, and the candidates have 1 minute to give a closing statement. We will begin with Mr. Hardiman.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for your questions tonight. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. At the beginning, I spoke about openness, and I want all parents to know that when I'm elected, they will have an open line of communication to me. I decided to run in this election when I learned of the need due to an upcoming vacancy. I decided to run because I have dedicated my life to helping children. And having an 8th grade son who will soon enter high school, I saw this as my next opportunity to serve our community. I'm a husband and a father of 2 grade school sons. I run for them. I run for their friends. I run for all the students of Whittier. I ask for your vote November 8th or no later than November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Irma Rodriguez Moisa.
I, too, would like to thank the League of Women Voters and the City of Whittier for hosting this candidate forum. I want to start by recognizing Trustee Russell Castaneda Calleros tonight, who's receiving an award from Spirit Family Services for his distinguished community leadership in support of our students. Russell, congratulations. I want to throw a shout out to the Lucerna girls freshman volleyball team for an undefeated season. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with 2 messages about me and what I pledge to do. As a community, as a district, we need to celebrate our accomplishments. And at Whittier Union High School District, there is much to celebrate. But I promise you that we must always push to improve in those areas where we can grow and we can do better. I will do that. Second, I will respect and understand my role as a trustee. I am only one person on that board, and one person does not have the authority to do anything by themselves. If elected, I pledge to work with all the other trustees, because working together, we will make this district the best in Southern California, if not the state and beyond. I look forward to working with them to serve our students, our families, and to meet our district's mission, quote, to achieve and maintain excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Now let's applaud our candidates. We recognize that it's a lot of work to run, and you really put yourself out in sometimes awkward situations, including having to sit up here in front of a TV camera. But a person who serves for 4 years or 8 or 12 has huge responsibilities to manage the policies and the budgets of the school district and keep working to make the district better and better. So we thank you for running, and good luck to you both.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank the members of the League of Women Voters who are here this evening, who helped make this event possible, and the City of Whittier for providing the facilities and for running this live on our cable channel 3. It will continue to run daily in the cycle until the election, and it has also been posted on YouTube. So those of you who don't have cable TV can look it up on your computer. So thank you again.
Are you off camera yet? I didn't know.
Yeah, well,
I didn't want to walk right behind you while you were on camera. Thank you so much, Margot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Margo. That was fun. I appreciate it.
good to have you here.